On the surface, the CSGO market tends to follow a very simple formula. Generally speaking, we'll see it go up certain months and down other months. While this is not picture perfect, it has gotten a rough idea as being the overall norm for the past couple of years. But today we're going to be talking about why that hasn't really continued this year, along what that means with the future. Let's take a look at the Sticker Capsule 2 graph. Now you can see here, 3 out of the 4 of the years here, you can see there is a quite big peak, and that's going to be coming during the summer months. The first one's in August, the second one's in July, and the third one of 2021 is in June. But what's very interesting is when we come over here to the 2022 section, there is no peak. Rather, that highest point on the graph is actually in April. Now today we're going to be focusing in on why this is changing, why it's necessarily moving up a little bit, and why we did not see a spike, or rather a huge peak like we saw with the Sticker Capsule 2 here and everything in 2022. And let's hop on into this one a little bit deeper. Now, what's really interesting and what sparked this video was the fact that the breakout case has recently hit an all-time high. The breakout case is not something I specifically watch for every day. It's not something I make in a video too common because I don't like making videos every single day talking about what small thing changed in the market. It's just not what I like to do. But what I did find interesting is that recently we saw the breakout case recover quite quickly from what is presumed to be the Antwerp and summer sale. Now both of these at the same time had a very large impact on the entire CSGO market. You can see it here with the month graph that it went down from about 350 to around $3 to now we're back up around that 350 to 360 range. What's interesting is this is a very similar pattern that we saw in the summer of 2021, except there's no peak here. For the summer of 2021, as you can see on screen right now, the price was relatively similar to where it started versus where it ended if you exclude the peak. If we take away that peak, you can see that it's roughly stayed around that 250 to 275 range. But the biggest thing and the main point of today's video is we're going to be talking about why this might be happening. Now there is no specific one thing. There's most likely a multitude of factors which we're going to mention. So let's talk about them. The first one, in my opinion, is quite obvious, and that's the fact that Riptide ended so early. When we compare just the player numbers from 2022 to 2021, while there was still a decent amount of people playing in 2021, you can see the mass exodus of people that happens towards that May and June months. But when you go ahead and look at the 2022 numbers, you can see that during May and June, honestly, I think May is down just very slightly and June is up very slightly. It's roughly even there for 2022, but when you compare it to 2021, there is a very big difference. Now, one of the very interesting things I found while researching this video was the absolutely crazy spike we see after an operation. Now, this is not something I can necessarily say for a fact happens because of the operation, but it's very peculiar what happened at the end of the past 3 operations. In 2020, we saw the end of Shattered Web, 2021, the end of Broken Fang, and 2022, the end of Riptide. But what's very interesting is that about a month or 2 after each of these operations, we saw an increase in price that is very wild. Not something that's a slow increase, but rather 3 very quick increases for all of these items. Now, it's very hard for me to say something like this is 100% due to the operation because it's obviously not something I can say for certain. I just don't know. It's a very odd trend, and especially with only 3 years, the fact that it could replicate itself 3 times is very possible. It's most likely something to do with a little bit of fear of missing out, combined with the fact that maybe people are still interested in spending a little bit of money afterwards the operation is done. It's really a lot of different factors, but the fact that it happened 3 straight times is one of the reasons that we have not seen a peak for Operation Riptide, or rather the 2022 summer hype here, because we can see that in 2021 that peak was about a month after the end of Operation Broken Fang. And while that's something we didn't expect to see with Riptide considering it ended in the middle of February, it's definitely something that contributed to not seeing a peak in 2022, at least in my opinion. The next thing that I believe is playing a pretty big factor is the CSGO 10-year anniversary. Now that we've gotten an operation in September and we see the 10-year anniversary is happening in August, I think there is the possibility in a significant amount of people's minds that there is going to be some big update that could possibly released at the end of August here, especially with the talks about Source 2 and another operation. I think this, combined with the fact fact that we've seen a lot more people active during the summer, or at least still interested in CSGO news, even if they're not specifically playing the game, is one of the factors of why the CSGO market is not tanking as hard as it should be during this time. And you take that 10-year anniversary and the thoughts of an operation, plus a lot of big YouTubers like Jesus telling people not to buy CSGO skins until you really need to, or if an operation or some big update comes. And I think that is a little bit of a factor here as well. We've got people telling other people not to buy right now, which I don't think is playing a very large impact, but it's reducing the impact that a lot of FOMO investing could have. If you're looking to get into an investment and someone with 300,000 subscribers tells you not to buy it right now, you're probably going to take at least some of their advice, even if you don't take the full thing. And then we've got the factor that's probably playing the biggest impact, at least at this moment, is the Antwerp sticker sale. Now, the sticker sale is definitely something we expected, but the fact that it's been carrying on for so long, and the fact that we have only our second actual major sale in the span of a couple of years, has led a lot of people to buy into it, and not a ton of people to be looking to buy into other investments. People are very hyper-focused on Antwerp right now, and a lot of other investments have been slowly creeping up that people really haven't been paying too much attention to. I know personally, about a couple weeks ago, I was making tons of videos talking about Antwerp because that's exactly what people wanted to see. These videos were getting great traction. It was bringing a lot of new viewers to my channel specifically, and it was really what everyone wanted to hear about at the time. Now we're starting to transition a little bit away from Antwerp. I personally started to make a lot less videos about Antwerp because it's something we've talked about, plus it's something that's not really as important. Everyone that's invested into Antwerp has most likely invested before this point, and are probably not too specifically interested in Antwerp, but rather CSGO investing as a whole. Now, when we speak as a whole on all of these different factors, it's very hard to determine which ones actually matter. I'll be honest, out of my entire list, there's probably one thing that didn't really play that much of an impact. Whatever you think it is whatever, but I do think that there is still a large possibility that we could never see a peak again, just because people are more prepared for the market rather than any of the things we talked about today specifically. The fact that we have so many people invested into the market in so many different items reduces the impact that a lot of FOMO investing could have, since there's so many people invested into that item specifically already. It's going to be much harder for a price point to reach that we saw before. If that didn't make a ton of sense, let me explain it like this. Considering a long time ago, there was probably many people that held the breakout case that were just looking to sell. They weren't specifically investing into it. Now we're getting a lot of people that are specifically investing into the case, considering it's 7-8 years old at this point. These people who are invested into it are much more knowledgeable about the market in general. Generally speaking, they probably know that they should be selling at these peaks. Therefore, the peak is starting to fall off in its volatility. It's starting to become less and less of a peak because these people know they should be selling at this point. Now, this is just my perspective on it. However, I do feel like it's a pretty fair perspective. But as always, guys, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.